Hello to everyone joining today on this second episode of the Christian Dating Game podcast. Everyone watching at home, there will be some of you who are watching the recording, so I want to say thank you guys for taking the time to watch this, and thank you everyone who's going to be joining live. Obviously, we've just got started, so there's going to be a little bit of a delay on people actually entering and joining. But just as a reminder for everyone, wherever you're watching, you can watch this on YouTube, you can watch this on Twitter, or you can watch this on Instagram. I'm live on all three. So depending on, your preferences, maybe, I know on Instagram, like you can't use your phone if you're watching it. You can switch to YouTube and you'll be able to watch it in the background. That will help a lot as well. But yeah, I just want to thank you all for joining me today on this Thursday evening. For you guys in America, it's Friday morning for me. And this is going to be the weekly slot, as I talked about. I'm going to be doing it live this week, every week. And today I've got some really, really great questions to talk about that I'm really excited to share with you guys. One of which about high value and what makes men, but particularly Christian men, high value, which is actually a really great question this guy asked me. Also talking a little bit about breakups. I got another question about breakup, which is hopefully something you're not going through, but something, most people go through at some point in their lives. And also one about first dates. And I've got something I want to talk about, which is really, really important as well, based on probably the number one mindset problem that I see in my Christian clients. And I really want to share about that as well. But while we wait for a few people to filter in, I've got my coffee. It's Friday morning for me. It's also a holiday here in Indonesia, and it's raining, or it's very cloudy anyway. It was raining. It's a holiday for a Buddhist festival, Waisak Day, but I don't take holidays here. I stick to the American/British holiday system, which is probably a bit stupid, seeing as I live in Indonesia, but there you go. And I've got a lovely Ethiopian coffee today that's absolutely delicious. Very, very flavorful, very rich, and I like my coffee. So I'm going to be enjoying that as we talk, and you'll probably hear me talk more about it as we go on, because it is actually delicious. So before we really dig into what I want to talk about today, I would just like to take a quick moment to pray for me, for you, for our time together, as I just think it really sets the tone nicely. And I notice a lot of people don't pray on these things. I get it, but this is a Christian dating podcast, so I feel like I should try and get some blessings from it and hopefully get inspired from it for you guys. I don't know if you know the actual etymology of what inspired means, but I always love this. The original etymology, and I forget from what language it is. I'm going to assume Greek, but I could be wrong. It means God breathed. So the idea that God breathes wisdom into what you're saying and allows the Holy Spirit to speak through you. So I'm hoping this little prayer will help inspire me and will help inspire you guys, so that I can, give good, valuable information for you all. Because ultimately, this is about me, and this is one of the ways that I'm trying to better serve my audience and serve you guys. I really want to, as I talked about last week, and I'll keep talking about, I want to turn this particular, my whole business completely, but this particular facet of my business is really about, trying to give people a free service, as best I can. I was talking about this with a client earlier this week, and one of the things I love, and one of the reasons I switched to working with people one-on-one, is I can actually get very hard, tangible evidence of the way I'm actually helping people. Whereas sometimes when you're posting content to a faceless audience, you don't actually know if anyone's even reading it, if anyone's getting any value from it. Whereas when you're talking one-on-one with someone, I can see the tangible improvements I'm making in their lives. And it led me to focus way more on client work and kind of not put as much focus in kind of like my actual free content. And I realized that's the wrong attitude. I should be trying to serve my audience and serve the people who listen to me and watch my content. And this is, as I say, one of the ways that I can really serve you. So please ask questions, please comment, please let me know if there's anything you would like me to help you with, anything you want me to elaborate on, please ask. I want to make this an act of service as much as I can. So Before we go any further, I would like to just say a quick prayer. So, dear our Heavenly Father, I thank you for this time to be able to share wisdom with everyone who's watching this at home, both live and on the recording. Pray that you will bless me and inspire me to speak everything within your desire and within wisdom of your word, so that I can best improve those listening's lives and help them in what they wish to achieve, Lord. Lord, I pray you'll bless this time with wisdom and joy, and I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, thank you guys for that. So let's get into it. So I actually don't want to start with one. I got 3 questions again this week, which is great. I think 3 or 4 is perfect for kind of an hour-long slot. Depends on the quality of the questions. But before I actually tackle what people ask me, I talked with 3 separate people this week about basically the same concept. 2 clients and 1 guy who was thinking about working with me. He actually did go on to work with me. We haven't started yet, but and about this really probably the most dangerous mindset that I see in Christian clients, which is often used or often displayed is probably a better way of putting it, by very successful kind of type A men, particularly guys who would tend to be getting a little bit older. Probably I'd say most guys who suffer from this are in their 30s. And it's talking about dating and women and relationships, and particularly marriage, more as a means to an end, whereby a lot of guys I've noticed will see dating and meeting women and getting in a relationship as their way to have a family. Now, obviously, there's nothing wrong with having the desire and the want to have a family. Like, it was a motivator behind me kind of taking control of my dating life and meeting my now wife. Is like, I knew I wanted to be a father, right? But the problem that comes within this is that seeing not the woman that you're dating as a woman, not seeing her as someone you want to marry, but seeing her as someone who will one day be the mother of your children. And what you're doing when you're doing that is you're not seeing her as an individual, you're not respecting her as an individual, and what you're actually doing is you're seeing her as a way to get what you want out of life. And this, I hope I don't have to explain why that's unhealthy, but I will anyway. Because it's kind of the reverse of a woman seeing a man as a way to get her income up, or get her money, as a guy, the way to provide for her, and she sees him solely as a paycheck, right? Because what she's getting, she's not seeing you as a man, she's not seeing you as a husband, as you as the one she wants to spend the rest of her life with. She's seeing you as the person that, like, she's trying to get something from. And when men see women as like a way to have a family, it's the same thing. You're just doing the same thing, just the reverse gender spectrum. And want to say welcome to all the guys who just joined. I see a bunch of people have just joined. This is going live, by the way, guys, on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. So please, all your comments will come to me straight on here. I'm using a third-party streaming system, so I can see everyone. But if you do find that you'd prefer to listen to this on another streaming platform, because I know, for example, Instagram is very like, you can't do stuff in the background on your phone. You can't use this as a podcast. So please feel free to switch over to YouTube and Twitter and watch me there, and you can use it as background then. But yeah, this mentality of seeing women and dating as a means to an end is really dangerous. And the reason for this is because you're not actually going to be treating her with the right level of respect and treating her with the right attitude that actually will lead to dating success. Okay. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, I want to give a quick story of a client who was on a date with a girl, and they were getting on quite well. But when he was actually talking with her, he kind of realized, like, on the first date as well. And this is another thing. You don't want to be making snap judgments on first dates, except in extreme cases. Sometimes you can. But he made a snap judgment that this is not going to be a person who I think will be the mother of my children. And he switched off and he disconnected. Now, later on in the date, and when we kind of talked about it, it was basically based on one comment that she made. And he made a snap judgment based on this one comment. And then she stopped. Well, he kind of withdrew from it. And then when he was building the attraction disconnected. And that was that. It was done. They never kind of reconnected. The date went really badly. But then when we actually discussed about it and I kind of talked about what she actually said, it's like what she said was he kind of read into it way too much. And the problem is he's looking for a reason to disconnect rather than actually build the connection that is there. And this is unbelievably common with type A successful guys. It's probably the biggest issue I have. And the problem with it as well is you're going to have all kinds of sub-communication that are going to decrease attraction. Even with the women that you like. Say a woman is going to make a good mother. She is someone who you think you would like to spend the rest of your life with. When she can feel from you that you're not actually interested in her, but what she can do for you, there's going to be this level of friction in your communication due to the sub-communicated tendencies, all the things that are going on below the surface. Because attraction is rarely built within the gray areas. It's built between the lines, okay? And between the lines of what you're saying, that's when the attraction is. It's those moments of silence. It's that pause when you look in her eyes and give her a little smile. Those are the moments that really ramp up attraction. And when you see her, and she can feel there's just this little thing that's slightly off about you. There's like something going on that I feel like he has an ulterior motive. It's gonna decrease attraction. I just wanted to talk about this because it's, like I say, 3 times I've talked about this week with 2 with clients and 1 with a guy who is now a client. And it's something I don't see discussed very often. Guys love to talk about red pill. Guys love to talk about women using men. But actually, we can do the same thing, not on purpose. It's not intentional. But what we're actually doing in reality is the same thing. Now, I got this question was, thank you, from Average Star Sector Spacer. I realize I can put these on screen now as well, which I didn't realize I could do last week. He asked this question: any crafty way to detach from outcome dependence when interacting with a person we are attracted to? Now, this is actually a great question because that outcome dependence or outcome independence is really what we want, is so important. And yeah, it's kind of connected to what I'm talking about, where when you're focused in on her becoming someone you want to marry or becoming the mother of your children, you're focused in on the goal and not the process. Now, in terms of crafty ways to do it, I don't really think there is a crafty way to do it. People always want to look for quick hacks, quick fixes, where in reality, it all comes down to the actual mindset behind how you're viewing dating. So this also connects to one of the questions someone else asked me. So I'll answer it in your way, and then I'll probably segue into one of the questions I got online. We want to view dating as a stage, a season, and a chapter in our life. Okay. Now, what that means is it's going to pass. It's going to end. And that we want for it to end, for us to get the goal of meeting a woman, of getting into a relationship, of eventually having a family, as I'm sure many of you want. In order to get that goal, we have to focus on the process, not the actual goal. The goal informs the process, but we have to focus on the process. And really, the way that we forget about that is by enjoying the dating process. So the only way you can actually detach from outcome dependence in that situation is by just enjoying the date. This is why I'm not a big fan of this is where I really go in stark contrast to a lot of other Christian dating coaches who love to talk about you must be intentional, you must figure out her values and what she wants from life and all these things, as soon as you can. I actually take the opposite approach, where you will find those things out during the dating process. It will naturally come up. You don't have to force it. You don't have to make her, talk about these things. You don't have to crowbar these questions in. They are just things that you'll naturally talk about as you go through the process of dating. And instead, you just want to enjoy dating because you know it's not going to last forever. So when you're on a date with a girl and you like her and you're attracted to her, you just want to enjoy that time and you want to enjoy those feelings, enjoy that moment, and learn to be able to actually do that. Because the reason, it's all connected, exactly what I'm talking about. The reason as well you get so outcome dependent with a woman you're attracted to is because you're focused on the relationship, you're focused on the goal, you're focused on getting married. If you just focus on enjoying your time together and letting the rest, kind of letting everything else fall out where it may, then you'll have much more success. It all comes down to the right mindset, and it all comes down to enjoying yourself. This is so crucial because it's when you get into that relaxed flow state and realize, like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does work, it does work. That's when you're really going to get the success, and kind of just put it in God's hands to some degree. You just got to, putting it in God's hand doesn't mean you don't try and you don't learn and you just kind of accept things as they are. You always need to be working at things. But when it actually comes down to another person being attracted to you, you have no real control over how they respond to you. All you can do is put your own foot forward and then leave that attraction in God's hands. It's about respecting them as an individual and also respecting whether they do, whether they do want to continue. And this is why I'll often say to clients, to other people, that, dating in the early stages, right? Later on is a bit different, but in the early stages, the first 3 or 4 dates is more actually about avoiding mistakes than it is anything else. Because if you can just be relaxed, enjoy the dating process, enjoy spending time with her, and she can feel that you're enjoying spending time with her and you're enjoying her company, which is so crucial. It sounds so obvious when I say it, but you'd be surprised at how many men don't demonstrate that joy of the dating process. Then she will connect with you. And as long as you're not getting in your own way, you're not, making real key errors of, moving too fast or pushing her or not using physical touch when it is appropriate or using too much physical touch, it is a bit of a balancing act. But if you can just enjoy it, you can enjoy her company and feel present in that moment, you will build that attraction. You'll be able to detach from it and get the success you want ultimately. But in terms of actual like little crafty tricks, I don't think there is any. And if there is one, it won't work in the long run. It won't actually fix the issue, which you've got to really ask, like, why am I so focused on getting this right? Why do I care so much about someone that I'm attracted to? Yes, but I've been on 1-2 dates with. Why do I care so much whether this even goes right? That's probably a better question to ask yourself. And by the way, guys, just as a reminder, I do have a free guide which will help you avoid some of those mistakes that I've created during the dating process and help you meet more Christian women. And another part of this is you're probably not getting enough dates. When you get really focused on the outcome, it's generally because you kind of have that scarcity mindset, which is, I've not had a date in a while, I've not got another one lined up, and therefore this one has to go right. So if you want to start getting more dates so you can kind of get rid of that feeling as well, again, I'm more practical than a lot of other Christian dating coaches. I think, getting results really matters, and, in terms of building your confidence with women so that you can take the opportunities with the right one that when she comes. But yeah, you can download my free guide. There's a link, I think, in the title on Twitter. You can't do like a description box on Twitter, so it's kind of all just lumped in the title. But you can also get it on my bio, and it should be linked under the YouTube video if you're on YouTube, which will really help you with some of these issues. And I just want to welcome the people who have joined as well. A couple more people joining over the 3 platforms we're on. Just a reminder, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter. So watch on whatever is more convenient and easiest for you and fits with whatever you're doing at the moment. And please, any more questions you have, I thank you very much. The gentleman who asked this question, I really appreciate it. Like, as I say, I really want to make this as an act of service. I want to help you in the ways that I can. Not everyone is in position to work with me one-on-one. That's the best way that I can help you. But if I can help you by answering some questions, if you're not in that position, or, I can help you with my free guide that can give you some good information, or some of my YouTube videos, which give good, actionable tips and things like that. I want to serve you in every way I can. I really want to make this an act of service as best I can. So that also, help me serve you, ask me questions, tell me the ways that you want me to help you, please. I would really appreciate that. So I mentioned on earlier that this question that he asked, I'll put it back up on the screen for people who just joined, is also linked into one of the questions that I got emailed to me, which was, Jack, in your latest email, you talked about what makes men high value, but I feel you're missing some valuable context. I'm sure you know or wanted to give more information, but can you elaborate on what it actually means to be high value? Now, the reason this doesn't seem like it connects to this question, but the reason it does is because I basically put out an email earlier this week about how being high value is not connected to how much money you earn. It's not connected to how, jacked you are. It's not connected to, being some kind of billionaire, entrepreneur, businessman, not at all. But the high value really comes down to kind of three things. It's having a mission or having a purpose. It's going after that mission and then enjoying the process, right? And that last point is what segues to this outcome independence aspect, that when you're enjoying the process of going through life, you're enjoying the process, of dating, that's when you're going to demonstrate that value. That's when you're going to demonstrate that outcome independence. That's when you're going to build attraction in the best way, because so many men go through life almost like it's forceful, especially the dating process, which I get. Dating can be dejecting at times. One of the things I'll talk about is one of the main roles that I have alongside, kind of framing and knowledge and accountability, is actually keeping guys from not getting dejected during the dating process, because dating is pretty zero sum. You kind of fail a lot until you meet the right one, and then you succeed. And so I understand why people do, after a while, start to find dating a bit of a drag if they're not getting the success they want. But it's one of those counterproductive situations where it becomes a vicious cycle, where if you're not able to actually enjoy the dating process, you're not going to get the success which allows you to enjoy the dating process, which is why it's so important to remember it's just a chapter, it's just a season. It's not something that's going to last forever, hopefully, unless you're one of these, these degenerates online who, they're 55-year-old guys and they're still talking about banging chicks. It's like, come on, dude. Grow up, find some spiritual enlightenment, please. But hopefully you guys watching don't feel like that. And understand that it is a chapter. Hopefully this is the last time you do it, right? So being high value, it comes down to having a mission, having a purpose, having something bigger for yourself. And that can be a religious mission. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be, running a business, right? Like, I'll be honest, and this is something a lot of guys online, red pill masculinity guys will kind of feel embarrassed to admit, or embarrassed to talk about for some reason, because there's all these conceptions about what actually makes up masculinity and stuff. But one of my major motivations behind getting to the place I'm at is because I did want a family, and I wanted to work towards that. Now, the way that I actually did that is I didn't just, mope around and just simp on women or something. I went out into the world. I went traveling. I took risks. I went on an exciting adventure, because one of the motivations I originally came to Asia was I was looking to leave the environment I was in. I was in a heavily drinking environment. I was partying a lot. I wanted to stop doing that. I wasn't Christian at the time. I wanted to stop that lifestyle. And part of that as well is because I wanted to find someone. I wanted to have a family. My parents, I had a good family life growing up, and I wanted to live that or recreate that for my own kids. But I realized on a subconscious level that I had to, as a man, go out and do something with some edge and some excitement and find some path. And that's what led me to Asia. Now, I never actually planned to settle in Asia as I have. I never even planned to meet like an Asian woman. I was actually more interested in, the other traveler girls at that time. And I had, many different flings and interactions with women before I met my now wife. But that purpose and that vision and that wanting to be a good dad, I always wanted to be a good dad as well, led me to, for example, to build my business. Like the reason I do this is because like I wanted to create an environment where I could be as present as I could be, or as present as a man should be. I don't think a man should be 100% present. A father should be. Probably a bit of a hot take there. I don't know. Maybe not. You guys can let me know whether that's a hot take or not. But I did want to be involved in my kid's life. So, and we had this opportunity with the internet that I could create a business where I had some outcome independence. I could work from home. Obviously, you can do that nowadays within 9-to-5 jobs post-COVID. When I started this was pre-COVID. But that was part of my mission. And my wife could see that in me. She could see I had some kind of purpose and some kind of goal. And this has always built attraction within our marriage as well. That I always have something I'm working towards on a grander scale. Now, and by the way, this is the thing about purpose, right? Purpose, you do not know your purpose at the beginning, guys. If you're a guy who's really like, I don't know what I want to do, I'm not sure what it is, like I want to become this high value guy who has a purpose, has something deeper to life, but you don't know what that is. Dude, I didn't know what that was when I went traveling at 21 or 22 or whatever it was. Like, your purpose gradually reveals itself through time. When I went traveling, I just knew I wanted to meet someone. And like, I knew I wanted to get away from the environment I was in. I was running away or pushing away from something. And in doing that, I discovered the next level of my purpose, a different layer unpeeled, where it became, okay, now I want to build a great relationship because that's the right foundation for a good marriage, and then a family life. And then the family came, and now I've got a family. I have 2 kids. One has sadly joined God in heaven, but I still have my young, healthy kid who I can see playing outside with his mom right now. You might be able to hear him in the background. I have that family. I have a business which basically provides all that I need. And now my next layer of purpose that keeps this value high in me is I'm now transitioning my business into my ministry. That's why I'm doing this, is why I'm serving this, is why I'm working with Christian people and talking about Christian dating. But when I first started traveling, I wasn't even religious. I did not know this is where it would end me. And your purpose is something that gradually reveals in time. So if you feel like a guy who doesn't have some grand purpose, normal. That's actually the way it should be. Okay, so don't worry about that. You don't need a grandiose vision in the beginning. You just need to push away from where you're going and move towards something. And as you keep moving forwards, the path will reveal itself. God will reveal that path. He'll light that path for you. And next thing you know, you'll be, miles away from where you thought you would be, but where you were as well. But in terms of other elements of attraction within what makes a high value man, I do have this concept which I call the attraction matrix. And one aspect, there's kind of 3 different layers of attraction. And I like to visualize this like a house, where the first layer of attraction is like the door and the foundation. This is what women are initially attracted to about you, the first things that they find attractive. So it is things like your height. It's things like how good looking you are. It's things like, are you in shape? It's things like the energy you put out. Do you have a particular vibe, or there's an element of charisma about you? So are you groomed? What job do you have? These things do matter. They are important. The red pill people are not 100% incorrect. The problem that they make is they just kind of leave it at that and say that's that. No, that's one part of a bigger picture. And that's what initially attracts a woman. The higher value you are on that area, kind of the easier opportunities will come. Okay. And the less friction there will be. If we use this analogy of the house, the door will be bigger, right? More people can fit through the door in this analogy. Now, the next layer of attraction is essentially how you, and this is kind of like what I like to visualize as the guest areas, right? So it's like the parts of your house where you would entertain guests. Like in England, we generally have 2-story houses, one up, one down, and like the first floor or the ground floor, as we call it in the UK, get into the football soccer debate if you like as well, is that the first floor, the ground floor is where kind of like guests come in. You know, when someone comes around, it's like your kitchen, it's your living room, maybe you have a dining room, depending on the size of the house, things like that. And these are, when it comes to dating and attraction and what makes you high value, is basically how you make women feel when you're with them. So when she comes, you know, when you're spending time on a date with her, does she feel like this living room is comfortable? Does she want to spend time there? Does she want to, you know, sit down on the sofa and listen to some music or watch a film with you, right? Is it clean? Is it comfortable? Does she feel comfortable in your house? And if she does feel comfortable there after a certain amount of time, then we transition to the private quarters. Okay, so mainly your guest areas is like how well you communicate. That's how you make her feel. It's how you use things like sub-communication, physical touch, emotional communication, all these different layers, because there's 2 different levels within this as well, of like sexual chemistry and security as well. If you make her feel comfortable in the guest areas, that's when you can move her into the private quarters, which is kind of who you really are. It's your personality, your character, your values, all these kind of things. Now, where most men make the mistake, and most Christian men make the mistake, and kind of higher moral standing men, shall I say, is they completely skip that middle section. They'll go on a date with a woman, they'll build that initial attraction, and then they'll tell her everything about her. Or they'll feel like, I'm a great guy, right? I know I'm a great guy. Like, why don't you trust me? Right? Well, it's because you're a stranger. She doesn't know you. You haven't made her feel comfortable with you yet in the guest areas. And it is, using this analogy, it's like someone comes around to your house for the first time. You've got a big house. You've got, a beautiful kitchen. You've got a beautiful living room. And you go, hey, let's go to the bedroom. You've just met the first time they come around your house. And they're like, well, that's a bit weird, right? That makes me feel uncomfortable. Guys do the same thing when they're dating. They skip straight from the initial attraction and they go, you should know who I am, who my characters are, who my values are. And this is one of the biggest issues with Christian dating advice, is that they expect you to try and figure these things out immediately, rather than actually building that chemistry between you that figures out, do I even like spending time with this person? Do I actually enjoy dating them? Rather than just ticking the boxes on who they are as an individual, and therefore, we can go get married. No, you will find out those things about her as you go through the dating process. Don't skip the dance, because by skipping the dance, you're going to skip the process and you're not going to be able to actually put yourself in the right setting to actually get married. It's not to say you can't do that. And, the perfect is the enemy of the good. Don't get me wrong. You don't have to do things perfectly to date well. Please don't misunderstand me. But this is just a very key mistake that will be limiting your opportunities, or will be stopping you capitalizing on your opportunities, is a better way of putting it, because this generally happens during the dating process, not when you're meeting women. So for the gentleman who asked this, hopefully that elaborates a little bit more on high value. In the email I talked about, I did just talk about your purpose and working towards that. Obviously, there are more tangible things as well as that. That's part of actually the private quarters element, when you have that vision. But the other thing about these 3 areas of the floor, the foundation, the door, the living room, and the guest areas and the private quarters, is they must all be aligned as well. This is where pickup artists get things wrong as well. So, this is why I'm trying to create this third way, right? Like, there is a different way of dating that takes the realities of dating, which some of the red pill guys and the pickup artist guys are correct about. They are, but it blends it with the morality and the vision and the realism of Christian dating, and doesn't go too far on that spectrum where everything's too safe and too sterile and too, too difficult because you're trying to thread a needle, and create this third way that blends the two, keeps the morality, the goal, and the respect of women as an individual of the Christian model and the intentionality behind that, but also blends the reality of what actually makes up attraction and what makes women want to want to marry you. And it's not just she should because God says so. Like, there's an element of truth to that, but that kind of Bible bashing element, or that kind of almost Pharisaical adherence to scripture, as opposed to, that's the goal and we have to work within what God has given men and women. And also, when we do slip into sin, forgiving ourselves for that, and He will, of course, forgive us for that if we ask for it and are repentant. Like, we need this third way. It's really, really the key issue, and that's hopefully what I'm going to do. I really want to create this movement of changing how Christianity and the church talks about dating. Again, that's part of this service, that part of my mission I just talked about. It's like, that's more of a long-term goal. It's something I'm probably not going to act on. I'm not going to change that in an instant. What I can do is I can serve you guys in the process and help you guys who are on the, you're on the cutting edge of this wave, basically. You guys are the early adopters. So, you should be proud of yourselves to be here. And, hopefully we can really move this into something meaningful in the future. And that is really my ultimate goal. And hopefully I'm able to do that. So yeah, I went on some massive tangents there, but that basically what makes up being high value. So I want to move on to the next question anyway. We've got 2 more questions to go through, and I've only gone through one so far. We're 36 minutes in, so we're doing good. And I see a few more people joining as well, so I want to say thank you, welcome. And a reminder, you can watch this on YouTube, you can watch this on Twitter, and you can watch this on Instagram. Wherever you are watching it, if one of those platforms makes it easier for you, feel free to move to them. Any questions you have, I will see them here, whatever platform you're on. I can see you guys, how many people are watching total on over the 3 platforms as well. It's a great piece of software, this. I'm enjoying it. And please ask any questions. If you want me to elaborate on anything I'm saying, if you want to, you just have a question about one specific area, or you want to, you want me to talk about something, please feel free. Like, please ask. I want to serve you. I want to help you. And the only way I can help you is by you guys, showing me how I can help you. Now, the second question I got, and this was sent to me actually on Instagram in DM, is I've just gone through a breakup with my girlfriend. And whilst I've been on a couple of dates since, they pale in comparison to what I had with her. How can I move on and find someone to marry? I know I made mistakes, but at this time I feel hopeless. Now, first thing to realize is, please don't feel hopeless. It sucks to go through a breakup. It's something I think pretty much everyone goes through at some point in their life. And, when you really care about someone, it's painful. It sucks. It's one of the worst things that can happen to you. And people do suffer serious heartbreak and serious pain from this. So first things first, I want to empathize with your situation. Second thing to say is, one of the things you're doing, which is good, is you are, it can be good to take a little bit of time to kind of recalibrate, depending on, I don't know the background of his relationship. I don't know how long they were together. I don't know if they're living together. If you've lived together with someone for a few years, it's almost like, you kind of want to rebuild your whole life, find a new place, and the values and everything else that are going on there has to change. So there is that. But getting back out there, I do think is an important stage. But the other thing I have to ask as well is, you talk about making mistakes, and I just wonder as well if part of this pain and part of this struggle that this particular guy is going through is because there is an unwillingness to perhaps take responsibility for some of those mistakes. The man is never 100% at fault in a relationship breakdown. He's never 100% guilt-free in relationship breakdown. It always takes 2 to tango. But I wonder if some of this dejection that you're feeling is actually because of that feeling that I made a mistake and I'm not yet willing to accept that and perhaps ask for forgiveness for that to God. Because when we don't take responsibility for our situation, when we don't, we aren't humble enough to do that. Humble's maybe the wrong word, but I don't want to seem like I'm being overly harsh. It can be painful to do. It's a hit to an ego whenever we accept we make serious mistakes in life that cause outcomes that we don't want. And if you do find yourself in that situation, just taking the time to just really sit with it and understand your mistakes will actually allow you to move on. Because when you forgive yourself, and you can also sometimes require you to forgive the other person as well, the etymology, it talks about etymology a couple of times today, but the etymology of forgiveness is to untie the knots, right? And when we have all these mistakes within us, or the problems that they've caused us, what we're actually doing is we're keeping ourselves tied to that situation. And until we acknowledge that and take responsibility and ask, take responsibility, and I did make mistakes, I want to learn from them, and I want to, forgive myself, I want God to forgive me for them. You untangle those knots, and it allows you to move on and re-enter the dating process with a little bit of joie de vivre again. Which is not a cheese, Joel. If you're watching this, I don't know if you are, but you're probably not. But it's not a cheese, all right, guys. And the other thing to remember as well is, and I put a tweet out about this today because of this question that I received, is that sometimes when the human mind has a great ability to romanticize and kind of, the whole concept of nostalgia is basically based on this, where when we look back on something, we can just see the good things. We just see the positives. We just see how great everything was, and the great times we spent. Whereas what you got to remember is, if you break up with someone, it wasn't all good. Now you may have thought it was great and she had a different experience. That happens. But in reality, you had bad times. She might have treated you badly. She treated you wrong. She caused you issues, pain, suffering. And then when we're out of it, what we can often do is we create a fantasy of what that relationship was, which is not actually in alignment with reality. And if that is the case, it's often a sign of some real deep work that requires doing, where it's like, what is it about this situation that I'm romanticizing? Why am I romanticizing about it? Because the reality is, you can find someone better. In fact, you will find someone better, because there's a reason this didn't work out. And whether that's because of you, which requires that responsibility and growth, that could be the case, or whether it's because she's actually not as great as you made out. If you put the work in on trying to actually fix these issues, and you try and learn from them, you use this pain as a stimulus to grow and to learn, whether that's working with someone to overcome these things, whether it's growing yourself, or just working on yourself, or whether it's figuring out why you have this tied up mentality with how this woman treats you, and how maybe the validation of women and having a relationship is so important to you. That will allow you to have a healthier, more interdependent relationship in the future. So in terms of I oftentimes, much like the question I got from YouTube earlier, people are often looking for quick and easy answers to this. But reality is there aren't, when we're looking for the quick and easy answer, we're not actually looking in the right place. We need to make meaningful, lasting change. And that requires hard work and growth as an individual. Some people who work with me, they work with me for 12 weeks, 3 months, and it's done. They've done everything. Some guys work with me for a year and a half. And the reason for that is because some of these issues take longer to fix and to figure out. And you have to be able to fix them if you really want a good, loving marriage. And again, it depends on where you're at, your history, your childhood. All these things kind of play into how much of that you need, how old you are. The older you are, the more work it has to be, the more, just because the patterns are deeper ingrained. And, the phrase "you can't teach an old dog new tricks" is, again, it's not 100% accurate, but there's, like most of these cliches, there's an element of truth to it. So yeah, that's what I would say to that. You're doing the right thing and getting out there, but the way to really detach from this breakup and this former relationship is to figure out why you're so attached to it. And I can't tell you that only you can know that. We can talk one-on-one perhaps about it, but I can't do it here in this setting. I'm trying to serve you guys the best I can, but obviously there's only so much I can do in a generic sense. Relationship, dating, it's all tied up to your inner self, your relationship with yourself. And that's why things like marriage counselors, therapists, dating coaches like myself exist, is because you do need, but depending on the level of your problems, you need that one-on-one tailored advice, because it is so intimate to you and unique to you. That's also why you need someone who's invested in you as well. And I think one of the I did a podcast with a therapist recently, and I think one of the things I've come to realize about therapy, I'm not quite as against it as I used to be, is that, like, a lot of therapists, they're seeing 5 to 10 clients a day, and they do that 5 days a week. They're seeing 50 people a week, 25 to 50 people a week. How can they have enough investment in you? It's just logistically and demographically. They only have so much mental space. It's one of the reasons I only take on 3 clients a month, because I know that I can serve those 3 people, every month. So I normally have anywhere between 9 and 12 clients at a time, 8 to 12 clients at a time. I can fully serve those guys to the best of my ability, because I just that's well within my mental capacity. So. Okay, let's move on to the next question. I'm going to have a sip of my coffee, which is delicious, by the way. It's my favorite kind of Ethiopian coffee, when it's with the natural process, when you get that rich fruitiness, and it's even got that beautiful blueberry note that you'll occasionally pick up in Ethiopian coffee. It's really, really good, with a chocolatey aftertaste as well. So it's got real layered, rich flavor. It's really good coffee, to be quite honest. For people who don't know, I've also got my whiskey up here. I like to smoke cigars. I am someone who's all about, I've got a developing palate. I enjoy picking out flavor notes and taking pleasure in that. It's just one of my little pleasures that I have, whether it's good coffee, good chocolate, good whiskey, good cigars. I like those 4 things very much. Okay, let's get into the last question then. So this one is a bit simpler than some of the other ones, where this gentleman asked me, again, this was from email: Jack, I've got a girl that I like who I'm chatting with at church. I want to take her out on a date. Where should I take her for a first date? Now, the first thing to say about this is the where should I take her for a date is the wrong question to ask. I'm sorry, dude, it's the wrong question, because this is, I'll explain why, and I'm not trying to be a dick or something, I'll explain why this is. The reason why it's the wrong question is because a lot of logical guys, this is a logical, intelligent man's problem, is that we like to tie outcomes to one specific tangible thing. Dating is intangible. It all operates within the gray area. This is why logical men tend to struggle with it in a way that less intelligent men don't, to be quite frank. Because there isn't those strict confines and that ease of like, okay, I can do this and then I can do that, and then if this and that, it makes sense. That's why some of my clients, the problems that they suffer in dating, they don't suffer at business, because when they're at work, when they're in a business or a corporate dynamic, like the confines are clear. This is a business dynamic. I know how to act. When it's a relationship or a gray area dynamic of like, before we're on a date, for example, I don't know, should I treat her like this or not? And one of the real values of my program is built with this in mind, to actually color in those, so it is a bit more black and white. It never 100% be, but to give you those confines that make you know how to act within those situations, which is really valuable for logical men. But the problem he's having here is he's tying up the outcome of the date with the location that he takes her. Guys, where you take women, there is a little bit of, it does matter a little bit, but the place you take them does not matter, really. Like, obviously, if it's some, take it to, I don't know, like a games workshop to Warhammer 40,000 event or something. Okay, that's probably not a great first date. It's not very romantic, but like the actual location doesn't matter. What matters is how you make her feel when you're on the date. So when guys get really focused in on what they should do with the date, what they're trying to do is they're actually trying to control the outcomes. They're saying, if I take her here, the outcome's going to be good. If I take her here, the outcome's going to be bad. And that's the way that I can, before I'm on the date, feel like I'm in control of the outcome. You can never be in control of the outcome. There's inherent risk. It's inherently unpredictable. You never know, because it depends on how two people respond to each other. And you might just not get on. You might think you like each other, but then when you spend time with each other, you're like, actually, she's boring as all hell. She's like a sack of wet cloths. Like, I don't want to spend time with her. Nothing you can do about that. The location doesn't matter. So that said, I do generally recommend 3 first date locations. Number 1, coffee shop. Go for coffee. Have a nice, cool, hip kind of coffee shop. Even Starbucks can be fine though. Again, it is better. Like, location does matter to some degree. It's better to have somewhere a bit more interesting or a bit more intimate than a corporate environment. The second is to take her for a drink, again, at a kind of hip, trendy bar. Now, don't want to get drunk. You don't want to drink too much, but going for 1 or 2 drinks at a bar, it also is a socially acceptable way, and it's understood, and people know what you're doing. That's also one of the values of these, is when you ask a girl out for coffee or you ask her out for a drink, she kind of knows, you're working within the cultural context that we operate in, that there's an understanding that this is a dating context. Okay, that's really important. And the third location is to go for a walk in a park or somewhere public where there's going to be people around. You're not going for a hike, okay? That is 100% the wrong context. And you hear my son screaming in the background. He's playing outside of his mum, right in front of my window. There's, you want to be somewhere public. Yeah, you don't want to be, and you can transition that walk to maybe going for an ice cream or something like that afterwards. But a walk is a really great way and a really great first date as well. And you don't really want to look out of those 3 locations. If you already know her, like this guy does say he knows her from church, and you guys have talked about something previously that you'd like to do together, and you already have a bit of rapport because you've already got a bit of a connection here. You kind of know friends of friends and stuff like that. Then you can be a little bit more proactive and do something a bit more interesting, of mini golf or something you've talked about. You can go for a meal in that dynamic. Generally, I don't recommend going for a meal for a first date. The food aspect, the price, of course, as well. It doesn't make for an intimate setting, especially, sitting down eating. It can sometimes be a little bit awkward and uncomfortable. 2 or 3 dates in, 4 dates in, no problem. But for the first dates, it's better to go for something low key, cheaper, less investment, less time investment, like going for a drink, going for a coffee, going for a walk. Beyond that, you don't really have to overthink it. You don't have to think about it too much. You don't have to worry about it too much. Like, again, as I say, when you're focused on the date location, you're what will make the arbiter of the date success. You're focused on the wrong thing, and you're just trying to control the outcome. And again, that shows that there's something inside there that needs kind of figuring out a little bit, or just a mindset change, if nothing else. In terms of actually building attraction on the date, because what matters way more is how she feels on the date and where it is. Again, I have a free guide that will help you do this. If you download the other free guide, you get this sent to you free. A little tip for you. You get both free guides, whichever one you download, called Christian Connections, which is how to really build an intimate connection with women. You can download it in my bio, or in the description if you're on YouTube of this video. On Instagram, it'll be in my bio. On Twitter, it might be in the title. I don't know. I don't really know how it presents itself on Twitter, the whole Twitter thing. Twitter's just a joke these days, to be quite honest. I don't like the direction it's gone in. Maybe that's me being nostalgic and curmudgeonly, as we talked about earlier, and I'm romanticizing what it used to be. But at least for me and my purposes, it's not as good as it used to be. But yeah, you can download that guide, and that'll help you actually get this date success. And I think there might even be something about arranging dates in there. I forget. I can't remember. It was a while ago I created it. Maybe that's a topic I could introduce on another of these live streams. But yeah, I mean, they're the three questions I got on the other topic that I wanted to talk about. We're coming up to an hour, which is perfect as well. And I just want to thank you all for being here and taking the time to listen to me on your Thursday evening, and all the people at home who are watching this recording. I'm really grateful for that as well. Because, this is the way that I'm really trying to serve you guys as best I can. As I said, as my purpose and my mission has unraveled, I'm transitioning this much more into how can I best serve my audience? How can I create this movement to change how Christians talk about dating, to reinforce the church, to make better, more loving marriages and more people in them? Because I think this is one of the pressing concerns of our time. If you see any public commentator on the right and conservative cycles talk about dating, they understand it's a challenge. None of them ever present any solutions. And again, it's understandable. They're not mired in this world like I am. This is my job. This is what I do every day. I've got these insights and I've got this vision. I've worked with over 150 men at this point, like one-on-one talking to them over years, that like I've developed this wealth of knowledge and understanding and the patterns that people are going through. And this is something within the Christian church that needs to be fixed. And a reminder, the good thing about being a Christian and dating in today's environment is that one of the most difficult variables is actually taken out of the equation, which is the quality of women within the church is much higher. The value alignment, what they want from a relationship, is much more aligned than what it is in the secular world, where a woman could want basically anything at this point. Which is one of the real challenges I used to have with my secular clients. You don't have that same challenge. You just need to learn to date in an aligned Christian way that is in alignment with female biology and actually builds attraction and is not too safe. And if you can do that, you get the framework to do that, you're in a much better position to actually find a loving relationship which leads to marriage and leads to having a family in the future. But it all comes down to the way you treat women, the way you visualize dating. If you have the wrong mentality, you're going to really struggle to get to that point, because women are women, and women within the church, they do want more than they did in the past. Even though their values are still great, it's not quite as easy to get married as it was 50 years ago. That's just reality as well. We can't deny that reality. So yeah, I'm going to close it up there, guys. Thank you so much again for joining me. I really appreciate it. We've got over nearly 70 viewers here watching this live right now. And that's I really appreciate you guys taking the time to do that. And I'll get more people who will watch the recording as well. And that's not including the people who joined and then left. So over the 3 platforms that this is on. Again, a reminder, in the future, this is going to be every Thursday at 9 p.m. EST. I'm going to do this every Thursday. So please come along, join me. Please ask me questions prior. You can DM them to me. You can send me an email. You can message me on Instagram, whatever it might be, so that I can help serve you guys in the way that I best can. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Take care and God bless.